Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners, to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, brought to you by our friends over at Briar Greaves Insurance. Protecting your assets starts with a company that you can count on. So whether it's auto, homeowners, flood, boaters, or business insurance, there's nobody better to work with in this insurance business than the good people over at Briar Greaves Insurance. For more information about them, visit briargreavesinsurance.com or give them a call at 813-876-4166. That is 813-876-4166. It is a Monday edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Another victory Monday, as well as the Bucs defeated the Steelers 17-14 during Saturday night's preseason game. So we're going to look at the aftermath of that game, of that week, really, because there were some injuries in the game, some injuries in the joint practice, that leaves us wondering which Bucs will be ready for the Atlanta Falcons in week 1 of the regular season. We know the Bucs have a matchup against the Bills in week 3 of the preseason, but a lot of us are ready for that regular season to begin. We'll have roll call at 4:20. We'll answer some questions and comments, and of course, answer any super chats that come our way as well. So I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is the face that runs the place, PewterReport.com, SR, Scott Reynolds. Hello, Scott. How are we doing?
Doing good. I'm excited to get the preseason over with. Ready to fast forward through Saturday night's game with the Bills. They did not look good last night against the Bears
38
at all. Yeah. So I think the Bears wanted to win that one more because they played some of their starters, got up to a really hot start. But
yeah,
the Bills' backups look pretty bad too. So we'll see what happens. The Buccaneers will be playing a bunch of backups on Saturday, and the NFL gets a lot of things wrong. I still don't know what a catch is. I still don't know, what roughing the passer is. Not a big fan of the NFL rules and really just the headquarters in New York. I think they really kind of screwed the game up, if I'm being honest. But one thing they did get right is the nonsense of having the roster cut downs, staggered through training camp.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you get to have 90 players on the roster for all of training camp, and you have one roster cut at the end. It used to be where you'd have the initial roster cut down after the first game, the second game, the third game. Well, actually, it was after 2 games because there was 4 preseason games back then. After 2 games, and then 3, and then 4. Now it's just you get 90 guys on your team, and that's good because the Buccaneers have a lot of hurt players right now. They need
like 100 at this point.
Pretty much, yeah, they really do. But so at least we're going to see some interesting backup battles because really, when you look at the roster, and I kind of talked about this and I've written about it before, there really is about 10, maybe 12 roster spots up for grabs.
Yeah,
and that's not now. That was just when camp started, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can pencil in 40 players, 43 really, including the 3 specialists, your kicker, your punter, and your long snapper. So it's really down to about 10 guys that you're trying to sort out. And do you keep 5 inside linebackers or 5 outside linebackers? Do you keep 4 running backs or 3? Do you keep 4 tight ends or 3? Do you keep 5 receivers or 6? So it's there's still some roster shuffling that needs to happen. And we've seen in the past, I remember Adam Humphries, back in his rookie season at Clemson, had a big game in the 3rd preseason game against the Miami Dolphins. I think it was the 4th preseason back then, and made the team based upon that performance. So sometimes what happens in the last preseason game matters. It can get you on the team, or if you're a fringe player, it can get you on the practice squad rather than just being cut. And Matt, you wrote about 3 players that really need to have a big game at one particular position on Saturday night.
Yeah, I did, because that's who Todd Bowles said. So credit to Todd Bowles for really giving the list. But it is Kayvon Merriweather, Rashad Wisdom, and Shiloh Sanders. I know we've talked a lot about Shiloh Sanders on this show, but that's one of the last true competitions for either a roster spot or a practice squad spot. Yeah. And I think certainly Kayvon Merriweather has the inside track when it comes to that last safety position. And unfortunately, this is all because J.J. Roberts is now out for the year.
Yeah.
The Marshall undrafted free agent, they put him on injured reserve actually today. Pewter Report broke the news just the other day, which was really unfortunate because he was balling out
Oh,
during
he was.
camp. They did sign a new safety today, Will Brooks, who played at Tennessee. Had a cup of coffee had a tryout with the Saints. Was with the Chiefs. He signed with the Chiefs as an undrafted free agent out of the draft. But now he's got an opportunity with the Bucs. Had 4 interceptions last season with the Volunteers. But if we're
Including
being
a pick 6.
kind of like another camp body to a degree, because you got to learn the defense, you got to try to make an impact after being on the team for a whole week. But you know what? At the same time, Javian Farr, the cornerback from Augustana,
Yeah,
just signed a week before. Had some pretty good practices.
he did.
So you never know, but certainly the Bucs are reeling at the safety position, and that brings us back to Merriweather and Wisdom and Shiloh Sanders. Now, Merriweather has been here for a little bit. He's kind of been around really the whole entire sun with the Buccaneers. He was an undrafted free agent. He was on the practice squad for a bit. He played games on the active roster. He was cut. He went to the Detroit Lions, was on their practice squad, and then came back to Tampa Bay when there was tons and tons of injuries happening to the secondary. Let's remember Antoine Winfield Jr. missed a number of games. Now, Rashad Wisdom, he's an interesting case because he's been on the practice squad really for the whole year for Tampa Bay last year. But Todd Bowles gave him a lot of credit because due to the injuries in the game against the Steelers, they moved him into the nickel. He played a little bit in the slot. He played a little bit at safety as well. And then Coach Bowles also gave Shiloh some credit for being a good hustle player on special teams and playing well inside the box and being up at the line of scrimmage and blitzing after the quarterback. Shiloh brings a little bit of something. Now, we talked about his faults as well. He doesn't have that back-end speed that you want from safety. He doesn't cover the ground the way you want to. And I'll be honest, I was watching some Bob Sanders highlights today before the podcast. Damn. I mean, he's one of the greatest safeties of like our era watching football. But watching him track a deep ball down the field, I mean, he'd get there in 2.5 seconds and then also knock your head off at the line of scrimmage. And it's not fair to compare Shiloh Sanders to Bob Sanders, but just had the highlight video up, so it came into my head. But Shiloh's going to have a really huge game against the Buffalo Bills, or I think it's going to be Kayvon Merriweather's job to have. Now, Kayvon has 2 interceptions in training camp, which is very important. Shiloh doesn't. I don't think Rashad Wisdom does either. So it seems like it's Kayvon Merriweather's job to lose, but that's why you play the games at the same time.
That's right. No doubt about it. I'm with you on that. I think Shiloh's probably destined for the practice squad unless another injury happens. I think that in a Super Bowl possible season like this one right here, you're going to want to go with the experienced guy. Kayvon Merriweather has, I think, 7 starts in the last 2 years in Tampa Bay. Most of those at the end of the season when injuries piled up, but he's at least got that experience. He's entering his 3rd year in Todd Bowles' system, and he had 2 interceptions during training camp, so he's made some plays. So I'm with you on that, and I think Rashad Wisdom probably on the practice squad again with Shiloh. Versatility is king. It really is in the NFL. The more you can do, the better. So Rashad Wisdom, Javian Farr, who was an outside corner at Augustana, played some slot. Both those guys can do something that Shiloh really can't. He's just a strong safety and free safety where these other guys can play both safety spots plus the nickel spot. And for Javian Farr, he can play outside corner and inside corner. So a little bit more versatility there. Again, we'll see what happens on Saturday. I think Shiloh would need a Herculean effort in terms of production. He did have 2 missed tackles, too. He's got 3 missed tackles now in 2 games, and that was one of the sticklers with him coming out of Colorado. It's a big reason why he was undrafted. He will miss some tackles and not take the right angle, not wrap up, kind of go with the shoulder and the forearm. And that's not what Todd Bowles wants to see. So he's got another game to prove himself, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we will. I think that's a top position to really look at because everyone else has been playing fantastic in the secondary. I mean, there's been interception after interception. Now it's not just the secondary doing that. I mean, we saw Antonio Greer set up the game-winning kick for the Bucs by an interception, and of course, he is an inside linebacker.
Right.
But now it really comes down to how important does Merriweather, whoever wins this last spot, how important do they become due to the other injuries that the Bucs have at the moment? Because Antoine Winfield Jr. has not participated in over a week now. It's a lower leg issue, as Todd Bowles said while we were in Pittsburgh. And then Christian Izien with a sore oblique. Now, you never know when Todd Bowles says sore, because sore can mean he just missed one practice and then he's fine, or sore can mean he's going to miss the next week and a half, and he'll be a little rusty when he goes up against the Atlanta Falcons. But because of the J.J. Roberts injury, the deck definitely gets reshuffled. But Christian Izien goes from a nice complementary piece to a crucial component on this roster and in the safety room. And then at the same time, I don't even want to think about Antoine Winfield Jr. coming into the season with an injury, because we saw what happened last year, and it was just so unfortunate. And it's so obvious how different this team is when Antoine Winfield Jr. is not in the lineup. I hope the Bucs are just bubble wrapping him, as we say to do with Baker and to do with Mike Evans, and they have to a degree. I hope the Winfield situation is not as serious as I think some people fear.
Yeah, let's hope. It's a different defense when he is healthy. We've seen that, and we've seen a superhero version of Antoine Winfield Jr. When he's healthy, he can sack you, he can pick you off, he can force the fumbles and recover it, he can scoop and score, he can do anything you want a defensive player to do on the field. When he's not close to 100%, when he's injured, I don't say he's just a guy, but he's not the superhero version of himself. Let's put it that way. So fingers crossed for him that whatever type of injury he has, he can overcome. I will say this: time is on their side, right? We're still essentially 3 weeks out from the first week of the start of the season. So they do have some time for these guys to heal up. Todd Bowles is not going to play any starters. You might see Charlie Heck out there. He's kind of a starter by default. They might not even put Heck out there, right? He's too valuable now at this point in time. He's gotten 2 games under his belt. We'll see what happens during the week. We might ask Todd Bowles about that on Tuesday. Or, Matt, we might just ask Josh Grizzard on Wednesday. That's right. We're having special guest, offensive coordinator Josh Grizzard will be joining the Pewter Report podcast on Wednesday at, ready for this, folks, 7 p.m. We're going prime time with this podcast. 7 p.m. Josh Grizzard will be joining us for what we'll call a segment, probably about 15 minutes. He's got some meetings that he's got to attend to during our normal scheduled podcast hours, 4 to 5. So he asked us to push it back, and we say, of course, Josh, anything for you. So we're happy to have Josh Grizzard join us as he gets ready to call his 3rd and final preseason game. And we've got some questions to ask him. So we'll also take some super chats at that time, but just know that Josh's time is limited. Some guests will come on for the full hour, but Josh is going to have a very busy full day on Wednesday, and he's kind enough to give us about 15 minutes of his time. So we'll start the podcast with Josh right at 7 p.m. So be there or be square. Pewter Report TV, our YouTube channel, Wednesday night at 7 p.m. We're trying to get Larry Foote for Thursday. That's the plan. So we might have Larry Foote Thursday. We're working on that. His people are talking to our people, and we're trying to figure that out. We do know that Matt Matera and I will have a Pewter Insider at Friday 1:30 for you. We're going to be evaluating Josh Grizzard's play calling, kind of breaking down what the offense has done for the first 2 preseason games, and see if there's any clues or insight that we can gather from what we've seen so far that we might see during the regular season, or we can even tell you some of the stuff they've done in training camp that we might see in the regular season. So stay tuned for that. If you're a Pewter Premier or Pewter Platinum member, you get to access that podcast right here on Pewter Report TV at 1:30 on Friday.
Yeah, we're going to become inspectors or investigators, if you will, when it comes to what Josh Grizzard has done so far as the offensive coordinator of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And very excited to chat with him on Wednesday night. A little prime time, different audience. Let everyone get home from work and have dinner and stuff like that. And you can watch Josh Grizzard. Chatted with him a little bit slightly when we were in Pittsburgh. So it'd be good to have him on the show. And if you have any questions, certainly super chat or leave them in the comments after this video is done as well.
So there's a little bit of a helmet gate controversy happening now, right? Because the Buccaneers tried out their smaller flag for the first preseason game, and then the second game was the bigger flag, GB. Wade says, please bring back the smaller logos we had in the last preseason game. While Q's44, our Pewter Report TV YouTube channel member, says, I like the big flags. Matt, do you have a preference? Because I've kind of gone back and studied some pictures of each. I don't really have a preference. I think the big flag is kind of cool because it does take up more of the helmet. The smaller flag kind of reminds me of the old Buccaneer flag. It's the updated version, right? It's the same current version, but a smaller size like they had back in the days when that logo first came out.
I guess, as the saying goes, go big or go home. So I guess I'll go with the bigger flag. I will say I didn't really notice too much of a difference until you notice that someone says, "Oh, like the helmets a week ago were a smaller logo than the ones against the Steelers on Saturday night." When you compare the two, the bigger ones stand out more. That's just going to happen when you put something big and something small next to each other. The big one kind of stands out a little bit more. So I say go with that one. I mean, you had probably, I know the Bucs scored more in that first one, but that second game you had the Rashad White, the Bucky Irving touchdown. You have the Emeka Buka touchdown. So maybe those highlight plays will continue with the big logo.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not sure if our super chats are working or not today. I've seen a couple of these pop in here. We have $10. So either this is a phantom super chat or you tried to super chat us and it didn't work. But Baby Boy 2 Demand says, my biggest fear was Teddy Bridgewater getting a wide receiver hurt. I didn't think he played as well as the stat line showed. Yeah, I mean, that was a high pass. There's no doubt about it. Not every pass that he threw was perfect, and that certainly that one to Jalen McMillan was high. At the same time, you have to keep in mind, he just showed up to training camp 2 weeks ago. He's practiced with the team for 12 days, truly practiced with them in terms of actually getting some work in for 3 practices. As he said, after the game, he only threw the ball to Emeka Buka once in practice before that touchdown. So we have to cut Teddy a little bit of slack here. He's still trying to calibrate, his weapon, if you will. So nobody expected a perfect performance. I think he actually kind of exceeded expectations, Matt. Those 2 touchdowns showed a lot of touch. He showed some poise in the pocket. He showed some ability. For somebody that just showed up out of the blue that probably knows 20% of the plays, I tend to think he played pretty well.
Right. He's still learning the offense, the functions. I still go back to what he said after Saturday night, which was, I think I threw one pass to Emeka Buka in practice, and then you get him in the game. The touch passes he was making in practice in Pittsburgh before the game itself, that really showed in the game that evening as well. But and again, this goes to experience. The throws were incredible. Don't get me wrong. Some were high, and he was throwing them high in practice as well. I think with a little more time, kind of knocking the rust off, that'll be totally fine. But to me, I was most impressed with because you didn't see it with Kyle Trask, but you saw it with Teddy Bridgewater. The pocket presence, the feel for it, knowing the rush was coming from his blind side, so he had to roll out and rush a little bit more. Getting rid of the football quickly, that is a trait that quarterbacks need to have if they want to excel in this league. And that's what worries me a little bit about Kyle Trask specifically is, will he still be able to get rid of the ball fast enough? He'll run every now and then, but sometimes he even chooses to run too late. But Teddy Bridgewater, even after only signing with his team and having his first practice August 6th, certainly looked comfortable and looked like he knew what he was doing. And again, he had the benefit of Emeka Buka and Jalen McMillan up until his injury. But yeah, I mean, you got to be happy with what you saw from Teddy Bridgewater, considering the context and the circumstance of what brought him here.
Well, Matt, it's 4:20. I know I'm happy because we have a thing we like to do every Monday, and it's even more fun at Victory Mondays. Little thing we do here on Pewter Report TV, our Pewter Report podcast called
Roll Call. That's right. We want to know where you are at, Pewter people. We have awesome fans all across the globe, not just in Tampa or Florida or the United States, like literally everywhere in the world. And we love interacting with our fans as much as we can. So we like to do this thing on most Monday shows called Roll Call, where if you want to put in the chat where you were watching from, we'll put it on the screen and give a couple of personal shout outs as well as one of us goes on a conversation about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I'll be doing that conversation today as Scott puts the locations up on the screen. And I want to continue talking about Teddy Bridgewater and Kyle Trask. A along with another veteran in the wide receiver room, who Teddy Bridgewater found some chemistry with on Saturday night, but it all kind of comes into play with availability, who's playing well, and some of the injuries too. So Teddy Bridgewater found a lot of great chemistry with Sterling Shepard on Saturday night. He hit him for a big gain, for a first down. He seemed to be the receiver that he was looking to the most, with the exception of Bucky Irving in the end zone and Emeka Egbuka in the end zone as well. And the reason why I bring up Teddy Bridgewater and Sterling Shepard is because they're each in an interesting boat in terms of they could factor into this Bucs team pretty well, but they also, because they've been in the league for so long, they are considered what is called to be vested veterans, which means if they are on the active roster when the roster cuts happen Labor Day weekend, their contracts become guaranteed. Now, the Bucs just brought in Teddy Bridgewater. It would be odd for Teddy Bridgewater to come in, learn the offense, and then be like, you know what? I'm going to go to another team because I can sign to their active roster. So what it seems like it's going to happen regardless is that Bridgewater and Sterling Shepard will be cut during roster cuts, and everyone's going to go, oh my God, how could you cut Teddy Bridgewater? How could you cut Sterling Shepard? He's such a great mentor to this team outside of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. They will both each be on the team. Now, for a moment, it's like, well, do you keep them and guarantee their contracts? Because Teddy Bridgewater, let's just say hypothetically, this game against Buffalo, which Bridgewater will be playing, Kyle Trask will be playing. Let's say hypothetically, Teddy Bridgewater has a similar game to what he had against the Steelers, minus the hospital ball to Jalen McMillan, and Kyle Trask struggles again like he did the other night. Well, then you go into the regular season saying, well, Teddy Bridgewater hasn't been here that long, but he's played really, really well, where Kyle Trask has only gone backwards since that first preseason game when Teddy Bridgewater wasn't on the team and wasn't really factoring in. What do you decide there? And then Sterling Shepard, he becomes much more of a factor because of the Jalen McMillan situation. So, as it stands right now, McMillan, thankfully, was able to get up off of his own power and walk off the field after that big hit in the first quarter against the Steelers. He did leave the arena in a neck brace. That is a crazy, crazy picture with him flipped over. He did leave with the neck brace on. However, he did go on Instagram and say that he's good and he's fine and everything like that. Todd Bowles did say that there's no timetable just yet. There's no designation of will he be ready for the first game against Atlanta. But again, you have to prepare for these situations. If Jalen McMillan is somehow not available, for Atlanta, you're not going to have Chris Godwin. Then the deck gets reshuffled once again because it's Mike Evans, Emeka Egbuka, who becomes your wide receiver 3. It has to be Sterling Shepard almost at this point because Trey Palmer hasn't been around. He just returned for the joint practice on Thursday, but didn't even play the game. Tez Johnson just came back for this last game. Looked good in some moments, but do you automatically put him as your wide receiver 4? Maybe it's Ryan Smith. Maybe it's Garrett Green. But Sterling Shepard is like the guy that you would handpick to be your wide receiver 3 if Godwin and Jalen McMillan are out. So it's an interesting situation where the Bucs might be relying on these 2 veterans that you have to cut for a second and then bring them back onto the active roster after they're on the practice squad for a little bit. So it's an interesting situation. I think we have a full-on quarterback competition, even though Kyle Trask will technically win it by Labor Day. And Sterling Shepard, who said, I only want to play with Baker Mayfield. I don't want to play anywhere else. The Bucs can kind of take advantage of that, but he could end up being a crucial component this first couple of games of the season based on what happens to Jalen McMillan.
Well said, man. I agree with everything you said. And that's kind of the beauty of this. And like you can manipulate the situation a little bit. You can put Sterling Shepard on the practice squad for week 1, and then you can elevate him to the active roster. So he plays in Atlanta, but he's still technically a practice squad player. So that's a great way to kind of circumvent, the situation here. And then you're not guaranteeing him that base salary for the entire season. And remember, you can elevate players 3 times. And, there's a pretty good chance that after week 1, you might do a roster shuffle, right? For example, you might sign Ryan Miller to the active roster. Remember, what we're going to see next week after the preseason, you're going to see Chris Godwin make the 53-man roster. You're going to see Tristan Wirfs make the 53-man roster. I don't think Tristan Wirfs is going to go on PUP. We'll find out, in about a week or so. I think he's made enough progress to where the team wants to give him the benefit of the doubt. And if he's available for one or two of those first 4 games, they'll take it. Even if it's just that Eagles game in week 4. If he misses the first 3, so be it. At least they would get him back for one game rather than putting him on PUP where you're automatically out for 4 games. Now, Chris Godwin is not anywhere close to playing right now. So he will go on PUP. I feel pretty good about saying that. He has not even practiced yet, much less run outside, much less cut on that ankle, Matt. So, but when Chris Godwin does come back, you will have to shuffle your deck at wide receiver and probably make a cut. I think Ryan Miller is probably going to be wide receiver 5. You're going to have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Mecca Ibuka, Jalen McMillan, and Tez Johnson. Those 5 guys will be on the first day of the 53-man roster. The next day, Godwin will be placed on PUP. They can't do it now because if you make a move with Chris Godwin, he automatically goes on season-ending injured reserve. He will come back at some point in time this year. So that's by rule. It happens to every team. If you have a player like Chris, like Tristan, like Anthony Walker, somebody who's missed all training camp in the preseason, they got to be on the 53-man roster, or you got to cut them, or you have to put them on injured reserve. So they're not going to cut Chris Godwin. So he is going to go on the 53 for the first day. And then the second day, I bet you they probably sign Ryan Miller. Then that would give them 5 wide receivers. You have Mike, you've got Mecca, you got Jalen, you got Tez, and you have Ryan Miller. That's 5. Doesn't mean that Ryan Miller would even dress on Sunday.
Exactly.
Because you can elevate Sterling Shepard, and he could be your 5th wide receiver or wide receiver 3, really, like what you're saying, Matt, and I agree with you. He would move up the pecking order pretty quickly, right, and see some action. If Josh Grizzard wants to go with 6 wide receivers, then Ryan Miller's active. But if they feel good with just those 5, then Ryan Miller would be on the active roster, but inactive on Sunday, whereas Sterling Shepard would be on the practice squad, but elevated in playing in week 1.
It would be very interesting to see it play out like that. I also have, in looking at the Bucs schedule and under the ideology that Chris Godwin will be on the PUP list and therefore automatically miss the first 4 games, I have this interesting feeling. It would almost be poetic, right? Is, because he's not even running or anything like that, it's not just like Chris Godwin's only going to miss the first 4 games. He might miss even longer.
He might.
But wouldn't it be something if the Bucs, let's just say they're winning early on so they can afford this. They want to give Chris Godwin a little bit more time. So he's going to be out for the first 4 games. The next game is against Seattle. It's at Seattle.
Right.
Then they're home against San Fran. But that week 7 game is Monday Night Football against the Detroit Lions. Last season, Chris Godwin got injured in week 7 in a Monday Night Football game. Now, that game was home against the Baltimore Ravens. You want Chris Godwin back as quickly as he can, but wouldn't it be something? Wouldn't it be kind of poetic if Chris Godwin returned on Monday Night Football?
It'd be kind of cool.
in week 7, where he ended up getting injured last season. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I am not a doctor, but I think that would be an interesting way to get Chris Godwin back. You ease him in a little bit because he's there's going to be so much rust to knock off.
For sure.
He plays that game. He plays against the Saints, and then he gets the bye week to kind of rest after getting back into football shape. You obviously would love for him to come back against Seattle or against San Fran, but if he's not going to be ready and the Bucs don't want to push him because if McMillan is back and he's still got a good trio with Mike, Emeka, and Jalen McMillan, I think a target date would be that Monday night game, week 7 against Detroit. He gets 2 games in and then a bye week to kind of rest out after coming back.
I love it.
I'm going to be thinking about that one.
The only other scenario that I think might top that, and that's great. I didn't think about that, man. That's some theater right there. That's some drama. I love that.
Theater.
Yes. The only other thing that might trump that was you keep Chris Godwin out all of this season and you bring him back for the Super Bowl against the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh my!
That would be it. No,
Oh my goodness.
That takes one hell of a crystal ball, and a crystal ball that I don't have, mind you. But that would be the only other Hollywood storytelling fairy tale situation that I could think of that would trump that. But I like your version. I think that's much more realistic. Not that the Bucs can't play the Ravens in the Super Bowl.
Right.
Don't want to not speak that into existence. It might happen. It'd be fun. Be a great Super Bowl. But yeah, I like the strategy, the timing, the logic, and all that. That makes a lot of sense. And at the same time too, I do believe Jason Light when he says we're not going to rush Chris back. I believe that, and they have enough wide receivers in this team that they can take their time. What I don't believe is when Jason Light said we're gonna take our time with Tristan. He's too important to rush. Listen, if they lose one or two games, they don't want to be 0-3 after the Jets game because Charlie Heck is not up for the job or something, right? Or there's another injury at tackle. They would take a 65% Tristan Wirfs over 100% anybody else. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. My guess is if I had to this is pure speculation, no inside information here, feels like we might see Tristan for that Jets game for week 3. I think that would be one hell of a season opener. In those uniforms, the original creamsicle uniforms, the white 1976 uniforms, with Tristan taking part in that game, that would be pretty cool. That would be one hell of a season opener for Tristan and a home opener for the Buccaneers.
Oh, it would be so awesome. I can just imagine the crowd going insane when they see Tristan Wirfs running through that tunnel. And that's what it comes down to if we're talking about Tristan and Chris Godwin. It's the nature of the position.
Yeah.
If Chris Godwin's not available, you have Mike. You have Emeka Egbuka.
Right.
There's no Mike Evans version of offensive tackle that can play left tackle with Tristan Wirfs not in there. So the schedule and the win-loss record of the Bucs will certainly dictate this.
Right.
No doubt about it. Because, if you start 1-3 out of those first 4 games, well, then you're probably, again, this is under the assumption that Wirfs is back for, let's just say, week 3, whatever the case may be. If you're 1-3 in the first 4 games that Chris Godwin is not available, and let's say he's running at this point, he's really gearing up his workouts and his rehab and all of that stuff. Well, then you probably try to get him back onto the field for that week 5 game against Seattle, if you can, which is also in a throwback jersey. But if the Bucs are 4-0, then it's like, hey, Chris, take all the time you need, buddy. We got it handled over here.
We got this.
So the first month of the season will really dictate how the Bucs want to go and maneuver the situation with Chris Godwin, with Tristan Wirfs too, but with Godwin looking like he's going to be out a little bit longer, I think there's a lot of different variables that will dictate when he is going to return versus Tristan, where it's like, Tristan, please come back ASAP.
The only guys that I could foresee, just to kind of put a bit of a period on today's topic in terms of injuries, the only guys that I could see not being ready to go for the Falcons game would be Anthony Walker, who is yet to practice. We're playing a preseason game. Maybe he comes back this week. We'll see. But he might be a guy that I would say, if I had to bet right now, probably not going to dress in week 1. Tristan Wirfs, I don't think he's going to be ready for week 1 per se. And then Chris Godwin. I think there's a chance everybody else has a shot at being ready for week 1. We'll know more from Todd Bowles tomorrow. No podcast tomorrow because we have Josh Grizzard coming on the show at 7 o'clock on Wednesday night, which is a primetime podcast. Just want to promote that again if you just joined us. And then we'll have our Thursday podcast at 4 o'clock, unless Larry Foote wants to do a special primetime podcast too, which we will accommodate because we're just that kind of guys,
We're humble servants, like Teddy Bridgewater said about playing for the Bucs.
Absolutely. So we'll find out tomorrow. So stay tuned to pewterreport.com, our website, as well as social media channels, Pewter Report on X and Facebook. We'll have some updates for you with what Bowles has to say regarding the injuries. We had a great turnout today for roll call, and that's not a surprise, Matt, because we always have a great turnout. So y'all didn't disappoint. I'm going to go through a lot of names here because we had some cool destinations and some cool people, starting with Lord Kill, who kicked things off, watching from Newcastle, UK.
Nice.
That was awesome to see. And then we had, I love this one, Steven Stansfield from Wall, New Jersey, the Bucky revenge game versus Atlanta. That's right. There was a face mask call that wasn't called.
That's
that
correct.
Should have been called. And plus, Bucky had a fumble. It's kind of a double whammy game for Bucky.
Yeah.
So I'm with you, Steven. I think he does have a nice little comeback from there as well. We've got one of our Pewter Report TV channel members, Tyler Lovell, up there in Williston, North Dakota, where I'm sure it's a lot colder than it is in Florida right now. It's hot down here, hot, humid, and just rained here in Wesley Chapel. Greg DeCruz, probably as warm as we are, Matt. He's from Costa Rica. Hola, amigos. Hola, Greg. Appreciate you joining us today. Q's 44, one of our valued Pewter Report TV channel members, Syracuse, New York, home with the 44s in orange. That's right. You're a big Sean Tucker fan, I take it. Of course. We know that already.
And Riley Dixon, too. You've been asking about Riley Dixon.
That's right. Yeah. So. And then over in Inverness, Florida, we have Chris. Go Bucs. No more injuries. Laugh out loud. Yes. Well said. That is the topic of today's show, and greatly appreciate that. Speaking of Wesley Chapel, the South Pod up here in my neck of the woods. Love to see it. Mario Thomas, our Pewter Platinum member in Hartsville, South Carolina. Go Bucs. We appreciate that very much. Yeah. And so we got Money Making Mitch over there in ATL, getting this place ready for the NFC champion Buccaneers. Love to hear that. That's great news. And speaking of Atlanta, Georgia, we have Nina, also from Atlanta. So Atlanta is really representing today. Yeah. Let's go down to Tampa, where Christopher's watching. Tampa, Florida, baby. Greatly appreciate the support from you. Now, I said it was hot in Florida, but it's not as hot as it is in Mesa, Arizona. 100 degrees. Dan in Arizona, we sending some cool vibes your way. Also, Christopher Oxentine from my hometown of Overland Park, Kansas. I will go for a bike ride in the 100-degree heat after the pod is over. So hopefully it cools off a little bit for you, Chris.
Yeah.
Greatly appreciate that. And then last but not least, we've got a couple more. Rolf, who says, here in Los Gatos in California wine country, I'm an enormous fan of Scott and Matt. Thank you, Rolf. We're a fan of yours, Rolf. Too.
Yeah, appreciate you.
And then from Rome, Italy, we have Jury. So we greatly appreciate all of our participation today from everybody on Roll Call and a Victory Monday. And you know what? We have to give a shout out to some people here, too. We want to thank our new Pewter Report TV members who recently joined, rejoined, or leveled up. Stubby Ryan is also on this list. I didn't include him, but Chris Peach, RP89, Kathy Gillespie, Kevin McDowell, Brian Schuker, Q's 44, John B, Connor for Reals, David Bradbury, HK Bucks, and Roger Price. Thank you for either joining or leveling up or renewing your subscription. And of course, our Pewter Platinum members, Scott Federico, Rachel Gordon, Noah Parr, Scotty J, Dave Anderson, Hezo813, Ash Fishpool, Joel Elrican, Sam, John Dale Morris, Zach Brannigan, RP89, Connor for Reals, Kevin Thomas, Leighton Carter, the guy is gifted. Love that name. Brandon Riley, Alec Bickler, Nick Dubuque, Zach Jarvis, Mario Thomas, Eric McMillan, and Dominic Tarantino. Thank you very much. And we want to give our Pewter Premier members a shout out as well. Too many to name off here, but we're going to let this roll while we continue to talk Buccaneers, Matt.
Yeah, thanks everyone for your support. A couple of the comments I want to get to with Kathy Gillespie, who is a Pewter Report YouTube channel member, says, I just don't agree with Baker not playing at all in the preseason. I sure hope it doesn't bite us in the ass. Excuse me, bite us in the butt. It's always great comment. It's always kind of a question of rest versus rust when it comes to players in the preseason. I feel like this year, not specifically with the Bucs, but across the league, I feel like we have seen an uptick in the starters playing. And I feel like we're in a good spot because it used to be some teams just didn't play any of their starters at all whatsoever. And I get that if you're the Bills and you have Josh Allen, or you're the Bengals and you have Joe Burrow. Really, if you have a great quarterback, I don't necessarily think that they have to play. But a lot of these other teams, I think we found a good balance of the starters. It used to be like the starters will play into the third quarter in the preseason, like 10 years ago. Now it's let them play the first quarter, maybe a little bit of the second quarter, and get them out of the game. And I think that's the way to kind of do it, and that's the way to go about it. Now, Baker Mayfield certainly is held in high regard at quarterback. Now, depending on what analyst you ask, He's a top 5. He's a top 10.
Yep.
But Baker, to me, has played so well the last 2 weeks, and Todd Bowles certainly agrees with this because he watched Baker and he watched the tape because Bowles was with a lot of the defense during the joint practice with the Steelers. But he clearly thought that Baker was playing so well that he didn't need to play in that game. They just wanted to get him some 2-minute work, and he was able to get that in the joint practice with the Steelers. I think Baker has played enough football at this point where you can avoid playing him in the preseason, especially knowing the style of player that Baker Mayfield is, who doesn't know how to not go 100%, who doesn't know to, maybe not dive head first for that first down and maybe slide feet first. And maybe if it's 4th and 1, then whatever, it's the preseason. Baker doesn't know how to dial it back, and that's fine, but you also want to avoid that in the regular season. In the preseason. So I don't have any issue with Baker not playing. Once he gets through the first game against Atlanta, too, I mean, it's not like he's not throwing a football for 3 weeks.
Right.
He's at practice every single day. He's had joint practices against the Titans and now the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think Baker's going to totally be fine. I think preseason games are important for some people. And I think we also have to factor in that, this is an offense that, with the exception of Charlie Heck starting at left tackle and, the new rookies with Ibuka and Tez Johnson, everybody's been here before. It's not like Baker is finding some new common ground with a lot of these guys, with the exception of Emeka Ibuka. So I understand the concern. I think it's a good conversation overall, and some players do need it, but I don't think Baker does. Yeah,
and we'll talk to Josh Grizzard on Wednesday and get his opinion about that too. That's something we can certainly address with him. He's 0813 with an interesting question, Matt. Atlanta not playing Michael Penix is interesting. I'm sure he could use the reps, and that's a little curious, is it not?
It definitely is, because Michael Penix Jr. played in 3 games last season, and a couple of big moments like the game against Washington and the last game of the season too. Michael Penix Jr. definitely needs as many reps as he can possibly get. So I
agree.
That's very surprising to me, especially with Atlanta. Again, you don't want anybody to get hurt, but Atlanta, you at least know you have Kirk Cousins, who has plenty of starting experience. And, you could say whatever happened last season, but you know who your backup's going to be.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me, because sometimes you see teams get rusty in the first month of the season and other teams are looking pretty good. And that's because their quarterbacks, if it's a Justin Fields situation, he needs to play the entire time because he's learning a new team, or maybe it's a quarterback competition. These guys are playing, and it kind of helps them that first week of the season. So that's crazy to me that Michael Penix Jr., who doesn't have a ton of experience, isn't playing in games.
I know. It's interesting, right? Because the difference between the NFL is you have preseason games. You can play some of your starters or not. In college, there's no preseason. Like my Kansas State Wildcats kick off the season at in Ireland against Iowa State in Farmageddon over the pond. And you just play. There's no preseason, right?
Yeah, that's kind of wild.
It is. But you know what? It's going to be interesting to see what happens to the Bulls when they play Boise State. The USF Bulls take on the Boise State Broncos, number 25, ranked the playoff team from last year, at Raymond James Stadium to kick off the season on August 28th.
Facing pressure. Ransom's going down. Get your South Florida football tickets today.
I like Alex Golish, man. He's got some swag to him.
Mm-hmm.
He got into it with the FAU last year. My daughter goes to FAU, Jillian, and that game they ran up the score, and there was some beef between those coaches. Now the FAU coach is gone, so there's a new coach down there now. But I'm going to be at that homecoming game on October 18th at Raymond James Stadium when USF takes on FAU. No more USF UCF matchup. The war on I-4 is dead, unfortunately. But I think there's some bad blood brewing between USF and FAU. This is a nice little rivalry there. So that's a game that's going to be in Tampa this year. But hey, get your tickets for that season opener. It's a 5:30 start. It's a perfect opportunity for you to skip work or cut out early and get over to Raymond James Stadium. The Bulls coming off of a big bowl win last year. I think the prospects for a good season are there for Alex Golish and his team. And they start off the season, they're going to be wearing all black, too. That's going to be a hot game
Yikes.
for the Bulls. Hopefully they have hot play to match those hot uniforms. But that's a cool look. I like that. August 28th, 5:30, Raymond James Stadium. Scan that QR code right there to purchase tickets and support the hometown team. Even if you go to another school or you're an alma mater, is a different school, support the hometown team right here in Tampa. USF Bulls Thursday, August 28th at 5:30.
Should be a fun one. Should be a good season for the USF Bulls. Tom Romeo Jr. says, I'm telling you, Garrett Green is a great athlete. It would be a mistake to cut him. He's an interesting dude. Played at West Virginia, was a quarterback, now trying to make it as a wide receiver. We talked a lot about Tez Johnson's big punt return, his first punt return against the Steelers, but Garrett Green had a good one against Tennessee. He had one late against the Steelers as well. He's trying to make it as a receiver. He's had some moments as a receiver. They threw a screen to him late in the game, and that kind of closed it out. It got the Bucs on third down. It got them the first down, and got it a little bit closer for Chase Money McLaughlin, made it a 42-yarder, which he hit right down the middle. But I like what I've seen from Garrett Green. I think it's tough how to disperse the practice squad, with how many receivers, how many running backs, linemen, D-linemen, all of that stuff. I think he's close to maybe making a practice squad. I think there's something you can do with Garrett Green. I think he could be a backup punt returner if something happened to Tez Johnson, who's already missed a little bit of time, or if Tez Johnson continues to make mistakes with returning. And I don't foresee that happening, but you got to play out every type of scenario.
Yeah.
I like Garrett Green. I think he brings a little bit more than some of the other wide receivers like Jacob Harris and, some of these other players that are fighting for one of these last spots. Like I don't have Garrett Green ahead of Rakim Jarrett right now.
Yeah, I certainly do too. Rakim Jarrett did not help himself with a couple of drops in that game. I'm with you. I think Garrett Green makes the practice squad this year. He can return punts. He just needs to learn the nuances of route running, right? He's got the football IQ, having been a quarterback. He understands conceptually where the receivers need to be, where they're supposed to go, he's learning how to, from the other side of the line of scrimmage, right? Going past the line of scrimmage, running routes as a receiver. He's learning where to settle into zones, how to read man coverage and beat it. There's a lot to like there. He just needs experience. He just needs to take a year's worth of coaching from Brian McClendon, who's a great teacher. And he could be a player that really challenges for a back-end roster spot next year. I really think 1 year in the practice squad, kind of like what Rashad Wisdom did last year. Put yourself in position the next year to kind of make the team. There's a lot to like there. He does have some Julian Edelman-like qualities.
He does.
Edelman, as you know, was a former quarterback at Kent State, and then made that transition as a punt returner and a wide receiver for the Patriots, and certainly had a pretty good career. We'll see if this former quarterback from West Virginia can do the same here in Tampa.
Yeah, and he'll get every opportunity in this last game because none of the starters are going to be playing. So a lot of Garrett Green, a lot of Shiloh that we talked about at different positions. We have don't know if it's a real or fake super chat, but it's from Batman. So thank you, Batman, for protecting the streets of Gotham. Says Hendrickson / Reddick start. Yaya with the second line. Of course.
Hold on one second. We have to do that over, Matt. I'm sorry. Hendrickson, Reddick start. Yaya with the second line. All right, go ahead. You have to use the Batman voice.
Okay. $1.99 from Batman.
Yeah.
Hendrickson, Reddick start. Yaya with the second line.
Trying to save my voice.
Right.
But thank you, Batman. If it is.
Trey Hendrickson is not coming here. It's too much guaranteed money. I wrote about this in the Bucs mailbag. I'll do a Pewter Pulse video tonight about some options. He'll be 31 this year. I love Trey Hendrickson, FAU Owl, but he is probably a year or two away from falling off the cliff. That just happens. It happened with Shaq Barrett, happened with Simeon Rice, happened with JPP, happened with those three great edge rushers here in Tampa Bay history. They all, 31 was like their last good year, and then 32, 33, they fell off a cliff. And so he wants somewhere near TJ Watt money. TJ Watt, 3-year deal, $123 million. If my memory serves me correctly, $108 million guaranteed, Matt. The Buccaneers, that's just too rich for their blood. Wouldn't be surprised if they go with the free agent route, something that's not going to take up draft pick compensation. When you draft as well as Jason Light does, the pick that you give up, whether it's a first rounder, whether it's a second and a third or fourth rounder, you're giving up players that could serve your team well for the next decade. Like you could be giving up a Tristan Wirfs type player. You could be giving up, a Bucky Irving type player if it's a second and a fourth, right? You could be giving up an Anton Winfield Jr., a Tyke Smith player that you're going to have for a long time, all for a very, very short 1 or 2 year shelf life for a player. And then you're going to have a massive cap hit when he's gone. And if they win the Super Bowl, yes, it's worth it. But man, that is quite a gamble to put forth this year, I think.
All right. But what about Micah Parsons? Much younger.
Yeah.
Wants to get out of Dallas. Micah Parsons, though.
He would take even more draft pick compensation. I think you could get Henderson cheaper. Yeah.
Micah Parsons.
That's true. That's true.
It's like, you could have this really good player, or you could have someone that is a great player and is established as a great player.
Yeah. Yeah, there is something to that. Trey Hendrickson would be a fantastic culture fit in his locker room. Micah Parsons, maybe it's Dallas, I don't know, but Micah Parsons might not be the best culture fit here in Tampa. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's fair, but I mean, we saw in 2020 they brought in Antonio Brown, and he, he had his issues.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's all about winning a Super Bowl. Because I bring it up because we've talked about kind of how thin the Bucs have gotten an outside linebacker.
No doubt
that David Walker is out for the year, and Chris Braswell, he did have a much better game against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yep.
Just something to think about if the Bucs really don't feel confident, and if they do feel that they have a Super Bowl winning roster, I think a lot of us do. Then I think that kind of plays in a lot more, but there are still some available free agents out there.
Big difference between bringing in Antonio Brown for half a season. Remember, he came in October for like $1 million, as opposed to that type of commitment in the draft pick compensation, all that for Micah Parsons. But listen, if you were to make a move and it paid off like that and you win a Super Bowl, then it's worth it. The problem is if you don't win the Super Bowl, it wasn't worth it in the end, and you're kind of screwing your future a little bit there. Yeah. So Jason Light has never made a blockbuster deal. I mean, the biggest, most robust trade he's ever made was a 3rd round pick for Jason Pierre-Paul, who was 29 years old. So, that was it. That's the highest draft pick compensation he's given up. So that's interesting.
Comment from Randy Atkins, and thank you for the super chat. Now, I'm no Traskaholic, but I do like a good gamble and love sport cards, so I've been checking eBay for some good cards to add to the Bucs collection. I'm kind of new to the Bucs, not new to the Bucs. I'm new to the whole ripping
football
cards type of thing, so I don't really have much. Info for you on that one.
Yeah, my son Logan does that. He's big into football cards. I don't have that knowledge. I used to have cards way back in the day when I was a kid from Topps and Fleer, but
right. I will tell you, if you got a Bucky Irving rookie card, that'll probably be pretty good.
Exactly. You know what else is pretty good? When you go over to Walk-Ons and enjoy their happy hour. It's the best happy hour around, folks, and they have it today from 3 p.m. to close. So after this podcast is over, get over to Walk-Ons, eat like a winner, drink like a champ. And if you can't make it today, go tomorrow. That's right. Go tomorrow. All day happy hour on Tuesdays plus $5 Tito's. Hard to beat that. $3.99 domestic pints, $5 premium house pours or happy hour wines. $5.49 will get you the 22-ounce domestic drafts. Hush puppies or onion rings can be had for only $4. $7 get you the Boom Boom shrimp and half order of waffle cheese fries or the spinach and artichoke dip. $8 for the boneless wings and the cheeseburger sliders. 3 locations to serve you: Wesley Chapel, Midtown Tampa, and Lakeland. It's a great place to watch football, folks. It's the place to go to watch the games. If you're not going to be at Ray J this Saturday, make sure you check out Walk-Ons. And if you are looking for something to do before kickoff, make sure you go over to Heritage Isles and get some golf in. The golf and country club of choice for Pewter Report is Heritage Isles, ranked in the top 3 best value course in the Tampa-St. Pete area by Golf Advisor. For tee times, give them a call at 813-907-7447. That's 813-907-7447. Or check out Heritage Isles Golf and Country Club on the web. It's a fantastic course, open to the public, but also a country club that you can join as well. If you're looking for a new golf adventure and you haven't tried Heritage Isles, do so this weekend. And they're ranked as one of the top 3 best value courses in Tampa Bay, St. Pete by Golf Advisor.
A lot of fun stuff coming up. We will be at practice tomorrow. We'll let you know who's practicing, not practicing, and what Todd Bowles had to say. Another reminder, everybody, no show tomorrow, but that's because Wednesday evening, we are going to have Bucs offensive coordinator Josh Grizzard on the show at 7 o'clock Eastern. We'll have him for about 15 minutes. So put it in your calendars. Not a 4 o'clock show on Wednesday. We will have Grizzard Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. And then Larry Foote will be TBD. Maybe Thursday, maybe Friday. Yep. We will let everybody know. And our Pewter Insider, which will be evaluating Josh Grizzard's play calling, that will be at 1:30 for Pewter Platinum and Premier members. To know all this information, find out when we are going live with our shows, please make sure you are following us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We're at Pewter Report. Our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment on this video. Any player you're concerned about with injury, any questions you may have for Josh Grizzard for the Wednesday night show as well. And yeah, that'll do it for today's show. For Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you soon for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.